Good morning, everyone. My name is America. I am with Be Well. I'm an outreach and engagement specialist. I'm going to be covering the federal changes that are happening and affecting within the marketplace. And let me go ahead and share my screen. And this is information directly from our website, and I will drop the links onto the chat so that you guys can revisit the information after if needed. So here we are. I think the one that we wanted to touch base on was the DACA coverage ending. So as the federal changes, the government has determined that DACA recipients are no longer eligible for coverage through Be Well, or also known as the marketplace. So that coverage is going to be ending on October 1st. Um, and then the other changes are that we are removing the 200 federal poverty level enrollment period. Before, there was the instance where if someone was below the 200% poverty level or at that poverty level, they can enroll through the marketplace or Be Well at any time during the year. That is no longer going to be offered. And also reconciling the APTC. If you have received more of a premium tax credit, and this is the subsidy that is provided to the consumers on the marketplace to help them pay for their health insurance, and they get more than they receive, then they would be responsible for paying that back when they file their taxes. Um, Currently, the amount that they would have to pay was being capped. So under the new law, there is no longer a cap on the amount of money that they would be required to pay back if they receive more than they're eligible. Um, Also, Be Well, we don't have any assistance as far as like taxes. They can always make an appointment with a certified assister that can get them, connected with someone who can help them when it comes to figuring out if they've overpaid or not. And also, there is some restrictions now on saving for some customers. So, with the new law changes, people who are ineligible for Medicaid due to their immigration status and the 5-year bar will no longer be eligible for a premium tax credit if their income is below 100% in the plan year 2026. And for people who are not US citizens, only people who qualify as eligible aliens or who are lawfully present will qualify for the APTC cost sharing reductions and other savings, and that would start in the plan year 2027. And everyone, this isn't new, but they would still need to show proof of immigration status to qualify. And lastly, on this portion, some lawfully present individuals who receive these savings now may no longer be eligible starting plan year 2027. And we are also having changes on how long our open enrollment will be. This year, it looks like it's going to stay the same. We're going to be having open enrollment from November 1st to January 15th. Starting the following plan year, it will be shortened. So it would be from November 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026. And then any Medicaid changes will not be impacted this year. So I just wanted to include that as well. Um, and then lastly, on the changes we have that affect the marketplace would be the automatic re-enrollment. So typically before we would have a re-enrollment process for consumers. That is not going to start back up until 2028. So for this plan year that's coming up, they would need to re-enroll or call their broker, assister, or our customer service line to re-enroll. The second page that I wanted to share is this one, how non-citizens and immigrants in New Mexico can get health insurance. This one, I'm going to put the link in the chat, as I mentioned before, but it is very helpful. It has broad information on, who can qualify, how to find out if you can qualify. Sometimes there is situations where a consumer is unaware. They can always set up an appointment with one of our brokers, and all of this information is on this link here. But if they were to scroll down, they can schedule an appointment here with a certified assister, and then they would be able to help them fill out the application and ultimately determine, if they are eligible or not. And yeah, I think we're doing the Q&A after this. So if anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or wherever Trish is directing those. But that is all for me on my end.
Thanks, America. Do you want to cover a little bit about how there's also options where I know you kind of did that people could go to the site and, ask for support. Is there other ways that you guys could go out and help some of the organizations at their sites? You want to talk a little bit about that?
So we do outreach events where we go out and speak to the general public. We host our own events as well. So if we are interested in presenting to some of these facilitators or resources, we're more than happy to go out there and present who we are, what we do, who's eligible and who is not eligible, and help answer those questions. Right now we haven't necessarily set that up with our outreach department, but I would be more than happy to go present and do those presentations to help people understand these changes moving forward.
Great. Thank you, America. And again, if anyone has questions for America, she'll stay through the rest of the presentation. We'll have a Q&A at the end, or you can drop them in the chat if you can make the chat work, or the Q&A section. Thank you, America. If you wouldn't mind, stop sharing.
Thank you.
And then I will go ahead and start sharing. For Anna's presentation. Okay, let's go right here. Oh, wait, are we seeing that?
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. And I want to spotlight Anna, so we make sure. I think we can. All right, perfect. Anna, you just let me know when you want me to advance.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ana Trillo. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and also a staff attorney with the Economic Justice Program at New Mexico Immigrant Law Center. Today, I'm just going to go over some basics, and you'll see there's lots of slides, but I'm going to go fairly quickly through them just to get through the time. But this is particularly on ICE encounters in the workplace or in businesses or organizations. Next slide, please. So some quick disclosures that we always like to provide, and this is if you are like an employer and this is discussing one of your employees, I always like to talk about this. If one of your employees needs services from our office, please have them seek our services directly. If they are your employee, we do not want you contacting us to refer them because we want to protect the confidentiality of the person that's seeking our assistance. Now, if this is a client or a participant within one of your orgs, we do have a referral form that you can do, or you might already be even signed up to be one of our partners that does referrals. So you can always reach out to me if you want to set up something like that to see if we can collaborate on that. And of course, all of this is just because our priority is always serving the immigrant community, number one. Next slide. So a little agenda of what we're going to be talking today, just basics of what New Mexico Immigrant Law Center is, or NMLC, and what we do, just so you know, and you can put in your toolkit, in case you ever need to refer anyone. Some basics about Know Your Rights, and then we're going to go into ICE in the workplace. Warrants are very important to discuss, and then I provide some suggested guidelines. And I'm guessing most of you are within leadership roles at your org. So how can leadership prepare in case ICE shows up? And then some additional resources. Next slide. So we've been around for about 15 years now. We are a social justice organization committed to working with immigrants in New Mexico, and that's very important for us to always say with and not for. We really work hand in hand with our clients and not just on their legal case, but also when it comes to policy advocacy, for example, or education. We really listen to the voices of our clients to see what they need and how we can best serve them. We have served over 9,500 people in 28 of the 33 counties of New Mexico. We do serve the entire state. Each year we creep up, so we're almost at the full 33. And we are completely free. So we only serve low-income New Mexicans. We do have a process where we figure out what that is. And if people don't qualify, we do have a referral list. And we have also expanded. We now have satellite offices in Las Cruces and in Santa Fe. We do have staff people at both offices, but our main office is still here in Albuquerque. Next slide. So these are the general legal services that we provide. I always like to describe it that we do humanitarian immigration services. So we don't generally do, when many people think of immigration legal services, they think of family petitions, like if you marry a US citizen or have a US child. We don't do those processes. We do humanitarian. So U visa, VAWA, and T visa, those are survivors of crime, domestic violence, and trafficking. Special immigrant juvenile status, that is for a child or a person 21 and under who has been abandoned, abused, or neglected. And that component involves a state court, family court petition as well, and asylum applications. We also do pro services. So that means we help with the application, but we don't enter representation. So the person is technically submitting everything themselves. For citizenship and green card renewals, DACA renewals, asylum applications, and temporary protected status when that is available. We also do advocacy within the immigration detention centers at Torrance County and at Cibola. We go every Thursday or every other Thursday to one or the other. And then we have an economic justice program where we offer monthly workshops where entrepreneurs and small business people can come and receive free pro bono advice from attorneys in the community that are donating their time. We can help you with registering an LLC, just knowing different things, doing wage theft claims with the Department of Labor here in New Mexico or Department of Workforce Solutions. And then we have a collaboration with a big collaborative that helps entrepreneurs. Next slide. So some basic rights, and you all have probably heard these a lot. And right now we're talking in terms of ICE, but really this applies to law enforcement, period. So this also includes police, state police, local police, but you always have the right to remain silent. You have the right to ask for identification of the official. So asking their name and their ID number or badge ID number. You can always ask if you're being detained. And if law enforcement says no, you can technically walk away if they're saying they're not detaining you. You have the right not to consent to a search. That doesn't mean they won't search you, right? And I always like to put the caveat that particularly men, unfortunately, they're more likely to get searched. If they even see like something in your pocket or whatever, they can automatically say that, oh, they thought it might be a weapon, so they'll still conduct the search. And you always have the right to ask for a warrant. Next slide. So ICE in the workplace, this is a question we've been getting a lot. And some basics is that ICE is allowed to enter a workplace if it is open to the public. So my prime examples I like to give of this are, for example, a restaurant. ICE can just walk into the dining area because anyone can walk into a dining area. For example, most offices, you walk in and there's a lobby. So like if you go, for example, to the dentist, you can walk into the dentist office and there's a lobby. So anyone can walk in there technically. So ICE can do that as well. So that's a public spaces. So waiting rooms, reception areas. ICE is not permitted to enter the non-public spaces without a valid warrant or consent. And so this is whenever you might have been hearing a lot about putting up signage, for example, that says employees only, authorized personnel only, restricted area, and things like that, because that creates a barrier and it's a visible barrier that they should not be in that area. Now, something really important is that I said without a valid warrant or consent. When it comes to consent, many people and business owners think that it has to come from the owner or from leadership. This is any employee can technically give consent on behalf of your organization or your business. So that's why it's really important to train your staff and have policies in place. And of course, you can always deny ICE access to a workplace, particularly those restricted areas. Um, and right now, I should have started the presentation with saying this is how things should happen, right? Unfortunately, we know sometimes these things, and we see it a lot in the media, it's not really happening this way, but it's still really important to assert your rights and create safety in your spaces. Next slide. So warrants, there's two different kinds of warrants, and this is really important. And right now, if you Google it, they come up and there's plenty of examples, but there are judicial warrants and there are administrative warrants. Next slide, please. So a judicial warrant is what people generally think of when they think of a warrant. Like the easiest example is like a criminal investigation. They're searching for some kind of evidence. Let's just like make it a gun, right, in a home. So they might show up to the place and have a judicial warrant. And that's the one that's listed here on the left. It's from a court. So you can see United States District Court. It will have very specific information on this warrant. If they're searching for a person, it'll be the person's name. Anytime they have to go into a location, it lists a specific address. The other thing too is that it has to be signed by a judge. And I point these out because many times, and right now in particular, we're seeing that ICE might be using invalid warrants. So they might have a warrant, but it might not be signed. Or they might have a warrant, but the address listed isn't the address they're actually at. So that's why it's really important if you are presented a warrant that you ask to see it, not just like them flash it at you, but actually see it. You are allowed to take time to actually review the warrant to make sure it's correct. If it lists a specific person and that person doesn't work at your org or they're not in your org, that's enough, right? You just tell them like that person isn't here, period, right? And if they're not there, they're not there. They can't do anything. Or the address listed might not be your address. So you can right away tell them, sorry, you're at the wrong address. This isn't the right address for this judicial warrant. Now, if everything is valid on there, then ICE can enter your space, your home, your business. On the right side is an administrative warrant. And this is what ICE officials generally have right now, are administrative warrants. These are from the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration. They are not from a court. So these warrants, these administrative warrants, can only be used to arrest someone in an open public area. So they are really trying to use these warrants to get access to private locations, but they cannot be using administrative warrants to enter private locations. And the same thing, you'll see there's differences in it. Right away, I would say the headings are the most important things to look out for, whether it's from a court or whether it's from a U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, Immigration, and things like that. I always tell people, Google these, look at them, so that way you're somewhat prepared. Because in the heat of the moment, whenever we're facing law enforcement, we get very nervous and stressed out and we want to rush through things or just comply. But you have the right to review these documents in its entirety to make a decision, an informed decision. So just something to consider to look some of these warrants up just so you can become familiar with what they look like. Next slide, please. So some suggested general guidelines that I recommend that any employer, workplace, org really set up is to set up procedures. So an internal policy of some kind, if ICE shows up, if law enforcement shows up, what are the steps that our office has to take? Practice these steps like a fire drill, I would say, particularly if you work with a large amount of immigrant community members. Practice these steps because, again, you want to be able to, in the heat of the moment, be able to keep a cool mind and actually follow through. And that's very, very hard. Also making sure everyone is trained, particularly anyone that is like front facing. So if you have receptionists, for example, or people that are more generally in the front area of your office or your building are able to see who's coming and going more easily, make sure everyone understands the procedures. Make sure the procedures are easily accessible and easy to understand. So a recommendation I'm doing is for most places of business or orgs, you're going to contact the owner or the executive director or deputy director. So do you have that phone number handy at the front desk? It can literally just be a sticky note that is front and center. In case something comes up, they can right away call the person. And that way the staff can right away say, I am not authorized to talk to you or make decisions about you entering this place. Let me call the owner, let me call my executive director or whatever. And it's front and center, so you're not fumbling through documents and getting worried and all of that. So again, make sure to designate who is a point of contact if ICE or law enforcement arrives. One of my favorite lines that I always tell people, particularly for our reception staff, they can just straight up say, I don't have authorization to speak with you. Or one that I like use, like, you know what, this is above my pay grade, so let me call someone that can talk to you, right? Because that's like an easy way. We don't want to put them under that pressure. And also considering where you might need signage, where you need to create these barriers so that it's easily visible that they should not be going through certain doorways or into certain areas because they are private areas. Next slide. So again, how can leadership prepare? What information do I need to communicate with our community? So if you do work with an immigrant population, you might want to let them know, right, that you do have a policy or protocol in place. This may make them feel safer and more secure in using your services and coming into your spaces. Also, what concerns do they have about this, right? So it's really important to keep that information, that line of communication open with our community. Also, check with your staff's comfort level in interacting with law enforcement, right? We don't want to put someone who might have a panic attack or an anxiety attack or has a history of having to deal with law enforcement and re-traumatize them through this process. So make sure that you think about that, who you're putting in charge of this, and providing a space for if one of your staff says, I don't want to be a part of this, I don't want to have to deal with this if they show up. Like, how are you making those accommodations and how are you adequately preparing for that? Does the rest of the staff need to do anything in specific if ICE arrives? So, for example, one of the organizations I have worked with, they work with children. And so if ICE arrives, they are being instructed to make sure the doors are locked so that they do not have access to the children, right? Like, all the staff know what role they need to play in order to make the place secure. So it's really important to understand this process. And again, this is where I recommend doing drills. And again, coverage for the point of contact if ICE arrives. Yes, you might say you have to contact the ED, but what if the ED's on vacation, right? Who's the person? What if the ED doesn't answer? Who's the next person in line? You want to make sure there's someone available that can take that call in case they arrive, and you have a protocol where you have to contact someone specific. Next slide. And again, more information for your org, you might be required to contact your legal counsel. I would say if you have legal counsel already, more than likely, they're going to want you to contact them right away. Particularly if they have a warrant, your legal counsel should be probably the one reviewing that warrant. Do you know what to look for in a warrant? This is where I was saying, go ahead and Google them and really check them out. Another quick thing that I'm just bringing up, because I also do this within my role at NMLC, is regarding I-9 audits and how to prepare for that. So just something to consider if you haven't done an internal I-9 audit, this might be a good time to do that and prepare for that, just because we do know there are more I-9 audits happening. Document retention, make sure that if you have private documents that they are not easily visible, right? It's very easy for us to, in the, work day to day, we go to the copy machine, we print something, maybe we don't pick it up, but it's easy visible and it's private information that shouldn't be visible, right? So not just talking about law enforcement, but just general privacy. We want to make sure that we keep information confidential. So if there is, just like at your front desk, a document and they can easily read it, that isn't protected because that was put in plain eye view for the law enforcement. So once they see that, it's something they have access to. So we want to be very careful with our confidential information. Next slide, please. So this QR code has a ton of resources. It's a Dropbox, and you'll see there's so many folders in there and so many things that you can look at. Again, practice, and I say this over and over if you can, practice what you do. If I shows up, have resources and information handy, whether it's for your clients, for your staff, have a conversation with your attorney if you have an attorney. Also for staff, right now, unfortunately, we know there might be some racial profiling happening. Make sure your employee files are up to date. Is there emergency contact information for all your staff, right? Just in case, you never know. And I, of course, as an attorney, need to think like worst case scenario preparing. But if someone does get arrested, who do you contact from that person's family to let them know this has happened? So making sure that information. Also, depending on the work you do with your clients, do you need to have contact information, emergency contact information for the clients or the people you work with? That's really important also to have up to date if you haven't done that in a while. Securing confidential information, and then make sure to encourage, right? We don't want our immigrant community to just hide in fear and not come out and not participate in everyday activities, but encourage them just to plan, right? We also do family preparedness clinics where we help with like powers of attorney for children, asset protection. We do know immigrants can own and do own assets such as homes, cars. So how do we prepare for worst case scenario if someone is deported, that these assets are protected, that maybe money in the bank can still be accessed by adding a signatory to a bank account. So it's really important to just have these conversations instead of shying away from them and waiting until something happened, being proactive. It really provides agency and decision-making power to the families if they can plan ahead, rather than having to figure this out whenever the worst has happened. Next slide. And again, it's the same resources. Our website is there. You can also, on our website, there's some Know Your Rights, basic sheet of paper, one-pagers that are like colorful. We've seen them around where businesses are posting them. They're in English and Spanish. And my contact information is there, as well as our office information. Our office is located on the corner of 7th and Silver. We're on the 4th floor. It is open. It is open, but you do need a buzz in, and that's just a security feature we set up for ICE, that our door is always locked. We have an intercom and cameras, so we choose who we buzz in and to keep our area secure in case that's something you want to consider for your space or if that's appropriate. But feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions. If your org would like a more detailed presentation, I am happy to do that as well. We have been doing those. I just ask for patience because we've been getting a ton of requests. So the demand is very high. But yes, that's all I have. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was great. That was a lot of information. And just so everyone knows, I will share all the slides, and those will go sent out to everyone that was on the call, as well as I'll attach them to the recording that will be put up on our website. I think there was one question in the chat, but America did put some links in there, and this was about having handout resources in case someone doesn't have access to internet. That might be something that we can also do separately after if that doesn't look, if it's not as usable as you would hope it to be, William. So we'll look at that. Is there any other questions? We still have some time. Does anyone have any questions for America or Anna regarding either presentation? Oh, it looks like people are typing. And if you want to raise your hand, then I can just have you get off of mute too. So that's an option. Let's see. So this is there any need for volunteer services? Is there any need for volunteer services with your orgs? I was a staff attorney for 7 years with a few orgs around town and recently went inactive to focus on admin duties at Mills on Wheels. So that's a connection.
Yes, so we are always looking for volunteers, and we're actually looking for ways to expand volunteer opportunities, particularly for attorneys. You would like to be a pro bono attorney and take on a case. We can also mentor you and help you through the entire process. Other volunteer opportunities, if you speak another language, are fluent, we are always looking for translations and interpretations. So that is another way. And then something we are planning to do in the future is actually a court accompaniment program. So in case any survivors of crime need to go to a court hearing or have some kind of court hearing, we are trying to put a program together so that we can have people actually accompany some of our clients to court so that they, feel support. And again, if worst case scenario happens, we have someone there to be a witness and to be able to document what's kind of going on. So there are various opportunities. Just reach out to our office, send me an email. There's also a volunteer form on our website that you can use to sign up. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. It looks like we have another comment coming in. Hold on. Oh yeah, Debbie, I'll send out the slides. I'm trying to get them all together on one slide deck to just send them out at once. Awesome. Again, if you guys want to come off of mute, just like, I don't know if you can request. Oh, horses. So thank you for the information. Vicki says it reinforces what I had previously thought, and I also appreciate the contact information to share. Yeah, so both of these organizations can do other types of presentations or resources to your organizations individually. So if those services are ever of need, please feel free to reach out with the contact information provided during this presentation and share with other organizations that might need this information. I'll wait a couple more minutes. Yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead,
was
Ann.
going to say some of the presentations that we've been doing, for example, this is a very basic one, and I kind of rapid fire through it. Of course, we can do a more extensive one and one where we actually like talk through certain things just to see if your org is prepared. Like I said, I worked with YDI actually with their executive team on a presentation. They were asking about the different spaces for families and children and all of that. I am doing a presentation on I-9s and how to prepare for that. And what to do in those scenarios as well. We do general information on what services we provide in case you want to host a presentation to know what kind of services we provide. Just basic know your rights that are more extensive. I've done these with employers and employees as well. And then court accompaniment, that's coming. I've done one very basic one because we're in early stages of that, but that is another presentation that we can do as well. And if there's something specific, for example, if you work with just survivors of crime or domestic violence, we can do something geared specific to those areas to explain, what the U visa is, what a VAWA or trafficking T visa is. So those are different kinds of presentations that we can offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. And well, if in case people have a couple of burning questions that they want to add to the chat, America, will you just kind of once again just remind us of those important dates, like what's changing now and what to look forward early in the year? So the DACA, right, is changing now.
Yes, the one we focused on was the DACA recipients no longer being eligible for a plan through the marketplace, and that is being well, it takes effect as of the 1st of October, so that's already this Wednesday. The other ones will, like the people coming off Medicaid and stuff, will not affect this plan year. The change in open enrollment dates will not affect this plan year, but the following plan year. The 200% federal poverty level SEP, allowing low-income households to enroll anytime through the marketplace, will take effect. It already did take effect, so that's no longer being offered. Reconciling the APTCs, that will be taking effect the following plan year as well. So 2026 and 2027 is what we're looking at as far as those.
All right, thank you for that recap, America. It doesn't look like there's any other questions that I can see, so I really appreciate both of your guys' time. We will give everybody back 20 minutes of their time, and I will post a recording, and I will post the slides, and all that information will go out via email and on our website. So thank you again so much, and feel free to reach out either to Anna or America or myself if you want more information about this presentation.